This is the Alan Major Show with Coach Major and Charlie Frederick. I'm Matt Swarad. Glad to have you along, and the crowd here at the restaurant as well, as we talk Niner basketball until 8 o'clock here on 610 The Fan tonight. We'll be back on 1660 America's Talk WBCN next Thursday, and we'll be having shows every Thursday from here on out over, I believe, on 1660 WBCN. Also, we'll take your email questions tonight, and you can always send us an email question. We already have the ones for tonight, but if you want to have one that'll be read next week, email address is major49ershow@yahoo.com. That's major49ershow@yahoo.com. And our phone number, love to hear from you tonight, is 704-570-9610. That's 704-570-9610. Well, Coach, it was a busy swing of games away from Halton Arena, finally coming to an end up in Olean at St. Bonaventure on Saturday, and we'll be back home at Halton on Saturday night against Fordham for the first time in almost a month.
Yeah, I know. I had to set the GPS when we got back to figure out how to get back to the arena. Hadn't been there so long, almost got lost, but no, it'll be great. You know, it'd be great to see the Niner Nation again, and obviously being home doesn't, especially in league play, that doesn't entitle us to anything. We still have to go out and play extremely hard, but it's always great to be in the friendly confines, no doubt.
On a lighter note, as we get started here, that trip up to St. Bonaventure, normally when you make that trip, you go into Buffalo, you take a commercial flight into Buffalo, and it's about an hour and 40-minute bus trip, and it's winding roads, and who knows what the weather's going to be like. And it did snow when we were going up there this time. So we were fortunate, got to take a charter flight into Bradford, Pennsylvania, which is normally without bad weather, about 30 miles away. It was snowing.
Right.
But as we're coming in on this 30-seat plane, and, a couple of guys, KJ Sherrill's our player guest tonight. He's not too crazy about flying. And in that our bus was bigger than that plane. There was no overhead compartment. But as we're coming in, I'm looking out, and I don't care to fly that much either. And there's snow everywhere. We're coming out over these mountains over, I guess western New York. And as we come down, they tell us that's the runway. We're looking out there, and I think it was KJ that said, or maybe it was Chris Braswell, Coach, that's a field. It was full of snow.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could land a plane like that on just nothing but snow, but we did it.
Yeah, I was amazed. I was up front, and I asked the pilot, I said, I got to be honest with you, I've never seen that before in my life. And he said it's so packed down that it's almost like landing on concrete. So I have figured out that to send the guy up by himself in a chartered plane by himself is a great way to punish guys. So if a guy misses class or doesn't take care of business, up he goes, and he's on his own until we decide to bring him down. So
it is a little bumpier. It is a little bumpier. And as we took off from Concord, just down the road, we went right over the speedway, and you're looking down, and the plane's kind of making that big turn to head back up north. And it was a little eerie if you hadn't been in a plane like that before, but it's great, the convenience of getting in there like that. It was fantastic. And then when we left, it was totally dark, and our plane's in the corner, and I'm thinking, do they know we're coming?
Right.
All over it.
Yeah, no.
And that was after the tough game. So it was a long day, but it was nice to be able to get back home that night.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a great way to go.
It is, yeah. And, if you're at a BCS school, that that's a way of life. You charter everywhere. I was at Ohio State last year. That's what we were fortunate enough to be able to do. And our goal here at Charlotte is at some point, I know you can't do that a lot, but you really like to be able to do it during the middle of the week on a road game, so guys can get back that night and go to class the next day, and not have to wake up and now you got to jump to an airport commercially, then you got to connect, and then you get back and half the day is chopped up, and then you got to try to practice that day too. So we want to get to the point where we can do that a little bit more often, and try to do things as first class as possible for these guys. So, but it's definitely, that's the only way to go.
It was fantastic. Well, now, of course, we'll talk about the game a little bit. Let's go back first. We had Richmond last week. We had the show between Richmond and St. Bonaventure. And one of the things that we noticed on that Richmond trip was we wanted to go inside. And when we got the ball inside, scored 40 points in the paint, and got some big games from the big guys, and had some success against St. Bonaventure too, getting the ball inside. And good to see some of the guys. You got Charles Dewhurst back for that game. And it was good to see getting those guys back in the rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Duke came in and played with great energy, and KJ against Richmond second half, got some offensive rebounds and just ran the floor. It's great to have those two guys, back in the mix. Their biggest battle right now is just getting back to the shape that they want to be in. And when you're out for 6-7 weeks and you just don't have that up and down every day, it's a challenge to get back. But they're slowly getting it back, and game time is the best way to get back in that type of conditioning. So both those guys bring energy. They bring some pop off the bench, and it's great to have them back in the lineup.
Phone number 704-570-9610. And we really can't comment on this because of privacy laws, but for fans that don't realize, Phil Jones, unfortunately, is not going to be with the team the rest of the year. How does that change? I mean, we just got Charles back, and you got your whole rotation, but how does this change what you're going to be able to do in terms of rotation of guys? And Phil was coming off the bench, Braz was starting, but how does it change what you want to do?
You lose 5 fouls, and you lose some depth at the post position. It's whenever you can kind of rotate 3 guys, that's an ideal situation. Ideally, you like to have 4. And now, with fouls or injury or whatever, you always have a 1 in the bank, and if you have a good rotation of 3. But it just kind of chips away at our depth there inside, and it's an unfortunate situation. He was playing probably as well as he's played, since he's been at Charlotte, from what I hear. But we'll have to figure it out. And the beauty of it is you can still play 5 guys, even though we lost a guy. It's not like all of a sudden we got to go 5 against 4 against the opponents. We can still put 5 out there, and it's going to take great toughness and staying together as a team. We talked to the guys the other day. Nobody feels sorry for you. Not one get well soon card has come in from any other team in the conference, wishing us, any good luck for the rest of the way. So we got to create our own breaks and develop thicker skin and find a way. And again, we try to talk about life lessons with these guys all the time, and this happens in life. There's a setback, and God forbid people have losses in families and things change in lives, and you have to get to the next thing and corral yourself as best as you can mentally and move on. And so that's what we'll have to do. But I love the way these guys have had a good week of practice, and they've continued to scrap and do what we ask them to do. So we're just going to keep digging our fingernails in a little bit deeper and find a way.
Well, with Phil Jones academically ineligible for the rest of the year, great that you got Charles Dewhurst back at this time. And I thought he showed great energy against St. Bonaventure. 3 for 4, had 3 or 4 rebounds in just 15 minutes. I would have thought he'd been a little bit hesitant trying to protect his hand, protect his knee.
Yeah.
But he just played with abandon. He's on the floor almost instantly.
He was, yeah. It was we had missed a shot, and the ball, kind of a long rebound there. And next thing I know, he stretched out like a guy trying to recover a fumble in a football game, and got the ball. And had a couple of steals that he broke away, for layups. And, watching film of him last summer, we knew he was capable of those things. That I'm like you. I didn't know he would jump into the mix like that the way he did. But it's great having him back. I mean, he has good energy, and he's a good defender. He's got a nose for the ball just naturally. Kind of finds our way, always be around it on both ends of the floor. So, but, yeah, great to have him back in the mix.
It scared me for a minute on that steal where he after he made the layup, he sort of patted his face. You knew he'd been hit.
Yeah.
I thought, good Lord, here's another injury. Luckily, it wasn't something severe, but hard to believe he didn't get a call for a foul, or that someone didn't get called for a foul.
Well, we could go for a while on that one. No. Well, leave that one right there where it's at. But no, I understand. He did. He kind of got raked across the eye on the breakaway, but and I felt bad for him because he had one in the second half, and you saw it, Matt. He's just trying to grab the ball, and with his hand being taped, and when you're out of playing, it's just a rhythm thing. You're trying to, you would think being able to pick up a ball is a simple thing, but it's a breakaway, and you got somebody running down on you. And he was the second one he wasn't able to pick up and grab it, but no, he's brought good energy back, and it'll help Deuce and Dario as well to have a guy to spell them once in a while.
Our phone number is 704-570-9610, the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe. Let's take our first email question, Coach. And to email in, go to major49ershow@yahoo.com. And today's first question comes from Brian Lambert. And, Coach, Brian asks, he says it's great to see the direction the team is heading. happy to see such dedication to the defensive end of the game. He said Richmond, in that game, we seemed to get exposed a little bit on the zone defense. A wingman would drift under the basket along the baseline and then kind of get lost. He said it wasn't the penetration of the ball at the top of the key, the big key, rotation of wing defenders. He kind of was asking about the zone defense for that game in particular, where you guys try to stay zone as long as you could, had to go back to some man too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when we get in foul trouble or have any foul trouble, that it kind of forces our hand to play some zone. And you know, our zone's getting better. We still got some strides to go to get it to where we want, but they did a particularly good job of trying to slide guys to the high post. As we went back and looked on film, you know, there's times where we can be extended and push out on the ball, but you know, if there's a guy really out top, there's times that we can back up and tighten up a little bit. And it was good for us to see, you know, coming off that game where we can get our zone better, because sometimes, you know, you want to be extended and pushed out. Other times you want to be tighter, so you just don't let the ball in that kind of sweet spot area, you know, in the high post. So, but that's a credit to a good team, you know, that executed and they got the ball in situations where they won. And they made a couple tough shots up there too. So, but that's what you try to draw out of games like that is how we can improve, and I think we'll definitely do that.
And ultimately, you want to be a tough man-to-man team. And I thought against St. Bonaventure, that was some of the best man-to-man defense we'd played this year. Yeah,
we had some stretches, you know, where it was really good. I mean, guys were, especially to start the second half, you know, we got out and I think it was 12-2 run to start the second half. And we let them get a little comfortable early on to start the game. We jumped out 8-5 in the first 4 minutes, and then they kind of came back with in the next 4-minute segments of the game of 9-2 runs and 11-4 runs, and we don't want to let people get out on us like that. We like to dominate each one of those little 4-minute games as best we can, but we've shown stretches where we can do it, and now it's getting to that point where we can sustain it and keep guys fresh at the same time.
We got a lot more to talk about tonight. Our phone number is 704-570-9610. We come back with the Bojangles Bow Time, kind of turning point of that last game against St. Bonaventure. We'll talk about that. Got the Fordham game coming up this Saturday back at home. First of 2 home games for the Niners before they're back on the road. All that as we come back here from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center here at Wild Wing Cafe. This is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center with Charlie Frederick. I'm Matt Sporat alongside Niners head coach Alan Major, talking about what happened last weekend, the triple overtime loss at St. Bonaventure. This weekend we have Fordham coming up. And Coach, between the games gives you a chance to get back on the practice court and gives you a chance to get Charles Dewhurst kind of back into the fold practicing. He had, 4, maybe 5 practices all year long before he played at St. Bonaventure on Saturday.
Yep.
Played well, gave you 12 minutes, but I know you're enjoying this week about, you know, getting time with him and everybody back all together.
Yeah. And when you have a few days in between, I mean, we basically just tried to go back to training camp mode, you know, for a few days and you know, clean up some stuff and really just when we get our edge back, you know, especially our defensive edge, you know, get back to where, you know, we can get some traction on defense to start games and start getting some separation, you know, defensively in some of these games. You know, so many of them have been tight, and that's life in the A-10. I mean, it's a fine line conference, so you know, a lot of these games come down to, you know, 4 or 5 possessions on either side of the ball. But it's been good, and for KJ too. I mean, he's still, you know, ever since Tennessee, I mean, he's still been working his way back into things as well. So those 2 guys in particular, getting them a lot of up-down time has been good.
The Bojangles Bow Time turning point on Saturday. There's so many things you can look at. The game was back and forth, 3 overtimes. But I'll tell you one that kind of stands out in my mind. I think it was during the first overtime. Might be the second, but I think it was the first. We lead by 2, closing seconds of the game. They go to the free throw line for a 1-and-1. They miss, and Javaris is right there for the rebound. Mm-hmm. And somehow he ends up against the wall, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And they get the rebound. Play continues. There's a foul. They hit the 2 free throws. Game's tied. We're there for the rebound. You make that, you get fouled. Maybe the game's over.
Yeah.
To me, that was a huge part in the second half.
It was. It just comes down to, you know, those little, and that's what we mentioned. You know, fine line. I mean, you know, you come up with the ball, And now they probably have to foul. And now and we've shot the free throws pretty well when we've gotten to the line. And hope they didn't bug that there what I just said about free throws and attempts. But now you're up 4 more than likely if they have to foul. So those are the things that we're trying to get our guys to understand is that basketball has about 80 possessions in every game. But those 80 possessions aren't individual under themselves. I mean, every possession tends to be linked to the other possession, meaning that a bad shot on offense is almost like a turnover. And that bad shot can lead to by either team, can lead to a break or a run out by the other team. And now that can start an 8-0 run, which can lead to a timeout, which can lead to momentum change. So just one play can sometimes affect 4 or 5 minutes in a game. And so those are the things we're just trying to continue to show our guys on film of, basically it's, we play one possession games in practice sometime. And basketball is basically 80 one-possession games as opposed to a game of 80 possessions.
As you prepare for the last 14 regular season games and the tournament, of course, you're going to do it without Phil Jones, which leaves you basically with 2 legitimate big guys, Chris Braswell and KJ Sherrill. Mm-hmm. How do you make up for that lack of another big guy? Is Gokhan Siren and, of course, Javaris Barnett, are they both going to have to move inside a little bit more?
From time to time, yeah, and some of that will be matchup related. It'll be game to game as to which one of those guys plays some power forward. We're going to put you still have to play extremely hard, but you can't foul rule in for KJ and Brass. But no, we'll just have to figure it out. Sometimes it just comes down to competing harder, scrapping harder. Guards may have to chip down a little bit and dig on the post and dig some of the balls out of there so those guys don't get stuck on an island and end up one-on-one against guys that could get them in foul trouble.
You've been fortunate in that your guards do rebound well.
They do, yeah. Yeah, Deuce led us against Georgia Tech, with 8 rebounds, and Dario's gotten some in some games. JB had 10 against St. Bonaventure. So those guys definitely have chipped in. So, it's just what we've told the team. I mean, every guy's got to take, just a little bit more and throw it into the pile, when you're a man down. But sometimes it can heighten your awareness and give you maybe a little bit of a wounded bear effect that make you, toughen you up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to, game to game, we'll have to figure it out and find a way.
You certainly had ample opportunity to have to toughen it up this year. I mean, you've had so many occasions where you've had to play without one guy or another.
Yeah, and then you don't want to get too used to that because, ultimately you'd like to get to a point where you have your 9, guys, and that's pretty much for the majority of the year. That's your rotation, and you kind of know what you're doing in game to game. Each guy knows where he's going to find his way in the lineup and that. But, we've had to piece it together. But, I want to let it go unstated that we're, the way the guys have handled it, they've been terrific as far as their mindset, trying to do what we ask them to do. They're still rallying around each other. We're still, practicing hard. Guys haven't dropped off in terms of trying to still do what we're asking them to do. So, we're proud of that.
The stat stuffer from the last game brought to us by Time Warner Cable's bundle package. TV, internet, and phone. Call 1-800-TW-CABLE today. A guy, there was quite a few. Deuce had 20 points for the 4th time this season. But you look at Javaris Barnett, his 2nd career double-double. First this year, 20 points, a new personal high, 10 rebounds. He was something like 7 for 10 shooting the basketball. Mm-hmm. As you look at Javaris and how he has really developed his game this year from the beginning of the season, when you watch tape when you first came here of what you saw in the past, where have you seen the biggest improvements with Javaris?
All around, to be honest. I think he's always been a guy that people knew, staff-wise, and last year that he's capable of making shots. But him rebounding the ball, defensively he's improving. I mean, he really just everything. The thing where he gets credit to me is he put time in last summer, not knowing how all this would play out. A lot of guys, if you tell them, hey, you're going to be a starter or you're going to be a 8th man or whatever it is, then that guy will kind of get his dauber up and say, hey, all right, I'm going to go to work and do what I have to do if he already knows what's coming. And to JB's credit, he was working last summer, getting shots on weekends, grabbing managers, putting extra time in. He was doing that before we had even started fall workouts. And so a lot of credit goes to the kid because he was preparing himself without knowing what was coming. And, to me, that's a sign of a class kid.
He doesn't shoot the volume of three-pointers that some of the guys we've had in the past. He's currently, though, at 47% from three-point range and 62% over the last 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great shooter, but he has sort of a funky shot. There's no rotation in the ball. I don't think you've tried to change him, though.
No. I try to stay out of his way. If he's in the corner by the bench shooting the three, I get out of the way and walk to the other end so I don't hit him by accident. But no, it's certain guys. If they're a little unconventional, but there's that habit is ingrained. You try to leave them alone. The kid John Diebler we had at Ohio State was just kind of like that. He wasn't a 1-2 step shooter into his shot. He was he could start on one side of the floor, run all the way under the rim, come out the other side of the floor, and just pop on 2 feet and shoot it. But we left him alone because he was
You don't mess with success.
He's going to end up being all-time Big Ten, probably 3-point leader in makes. So. He's worked himself into this. I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for putting this time in.
Seeing what you have now with JB, and as you approach this season, and knowing what you had in terms of seniors and who would not be here after this year, and as you went out on the recruiting trail looking for the holes you wanted to plug into, I mean, you still have some spots left, but as you now see what you have with Javaris, you still have another year with Javaris, season your starting lineup. Has that altered what you feel like maybe your needs are for next year? Maybe you could. I've got a guy I didn't think I had, and now I can go get something else for this next year?
Yeah, possibly. The good thing about JB is he's versatile. He's able to kind of play some two if we want to play a big lineup, with Gokin and KJ and Braz, and then Dario. You could go big. You could go small, and, if you had KJ or Braz and then, JB and then Gokin and Dario and Deuce, if you want to kind of go with a smaller skill group. I mean, so JB kind of has the ability to play that 2-3-4. So, with that said, he kind of his ability to float around helps us, recruiting wise. That gives you some flexibility.
Coach, back to the email questions. Our email address is major49ershow@yahoo.com. This question comes from Doug Stafford. And he says, Coach, well, here we go again about A-10 officiating. I don't want you to address the officials, but he said 42 free throws to 9. That was 3 overtimes. The prior road loss at Richmond and St. Bonaventure together, we've been averaging 24 free throw attempts per game. In non-league play, just 13 times in those 2 games. His question was, or is, what can the 49ers do to get more respect in league games and maybe getting a few more whistles?
That's a good question. Ask him if he finds out to call me. It's a fine line because I don't want to go overboard and get our guys worrying about the refs and trying to play at the same time. I mean, if I lose it with officiating, then a lot of times the kids take on the reaction that the coaches have. And if our guys, start worrying about officiating, then that's that much less they're worrying about defending and taking good shots and taking care of the basketball. So it's a fine line. I mean, I was just telling Charlie my, running joke, which I want to say on record that I won't do this because I might get tossed. But, a coach told me once that if we were ever really getting it stuck to us, and I thought about this Saturday, but we didn't, is, send your best defender out of a timeout and have him go stand next to the referee in the denial stance. And when a ref walks over and says, hey, coach, you got your defender out here guarding me, what's the problem? And basically, your comeback is very respectfully, well, Mr. Official, we had a timeout, and we told our best defender that we need to go out and stop the guy that's hurting us, and tonight it happens to be you. So trust me, I'm not going to do that because they'll probably, be taking a long walk to the locker room and listening on the radio or something. But, it's a fine line. You want to fight for your guys, and you want to scrap for calls and that. At the same time, you don't want to get that to become the undercurrent of the whole game as opposed to competing and playing. So hopefully it's not an initiation deal with the first year guy, any of that stuff. But we'll find a way. I mean, I think, coming back home, we want to reestablish our toughness, and we have a phrase that toughest team sets the rules, and that's what we want to get back to. And I think if you do that, and that aggression, usually the breaks go to the more aggressive team. So that's what we want to get back to, and control what we can control with that stuff.
Our phone number is 704-570-9610. That's 570-9610. We've talked a lot in recent weeks about the improved point guard play of Dario Green. And, despite everything that happened on Saturday, still had some opportunities down the stretch to win the game. And I think I mentioned to you after the game, I felt bad for Dario because you look at his numbers, and it looked like he was just having a really rough night, 5 for 21 or something like that. But he was so close to so many baskets being scored, just kind of rolling off the rim. And you guys have the confidence that he's going to have the ball in a lot of situations late in the game. And I thought he made 3-4 really nice moves to the bucket. The ball just wouldn't go in.
He did. I mean, a couple open threes, too, that just kind of rimmed out. I mean, he basically very close to being 9 or 10 for 21, which is a whole different stat sheet, when you look at it. So, the biggest thing we want to do as coaches is, regardless of how guys play and regardless of the outcome of games go, is if we don't ever want our guys to feel that we don't believe in them. And that's the big thing that we want to, always remind our guys. I mean, obviously we want to win every game we play. We've been right there in a handful of games this year, and I always look at myself first on how we can get better and come out on the top end of some of these. But we always want our guys, regardless of how they perform, knowing that we got undying belief in them and that we're going to be behind them no matter what. So we feel that same way about Dario. I mean, I know he felt as bad as anybody about it. And we just remind the kids, hey, no one does it on their own, win or lose. You win together and you lose together, and no matter what happens at the end of every game, you stay together. So, but no, he's done some nice things down the stretches in this past few weeks.
Our next email question, Coach, comes from Matthew Rittenauer, and it's about Charles Dewhurst. He said, I was really happy to see Charles Dewhurst play on Saturday. He looked like he'd been the rotation all season long. He said, how does this lengthen your bench? Will he be a super sub? And how can he can do a lot of things so well. He also said, can you make sure no black cat crosses his path? And I think he missed practice today with a groin, but he's okay.
He's okay, yeah. No, he gives us some perimeter depth, which is good. You can slide him in there, for Dario and Deuce. And he's got ball handling ability, so he kind of gives you another ball handler too. It's tough because, obviously, unfortunately with Phil's situation, you kind of added one and you subtracted. So, the bigs are kind of pinched in terms of their depth. But, but that's where, like I think Charlie mentioned, between Goke and JB, we'll find ways to piece it together. But Duke gives us, and he gives you another defender too on the perimeter, and he gives you experience. He gives you a guy that's been through a lot of wars in this league. So, he's not going to go into any place and not be, affected by the crowd or the environment. I mean, he's a kind of an old soul in that way. So, it definitely lengthens our depth perimeter-wise.
He's also one of the more athletic guys, and
sneaky athletic.
Sneaking in the passing lane, knocking balls away.
Yep.
Just getting a finger on a ball can really alter a play, can't it?
Yep. No, that's that deal we talked about in terms of possession. We basically like to tell the guys, a deflection can lead to a fast break, which can lead to an 8-0 run, which can lead to a timeout, and all just started with a deflection. You know, so. That's how games turn sometimes, just like that, on a little situation. So, but Duke brings that ability to kind of, stir things up on defense, which is good for us.
Our phone number again, 704-570-9610. It's the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe on Mallard Creek Church Road. We're going to step aside now for the TIAA Cref Student Athlete Spotlight feature, then take our commercial break, come back with our player guest. KJ Sherrill's our guest today. This is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. 704-570-9610 is our phone number. here from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast booth at Wild Wing Cafe. And don't forget, you can catch the tape delay version of this show on University's cable television channel, Channel 22, seen locally here in the Mecklenburg County area, Channel 22, Time Warner Cable. It's 3 different times tomorrow through Monday night. Our special player guest today is KJ Sherrill out of West Rowan High School. And KJ finally getting back into the fold, getting a chance to play recently after a knee injury at the start of the season. First of all, great to see you. Happy New Year, and hope things are going well, KJ.
Yes, sir. It's good to be back.
I know you were kind of chopping at the bit to get back on the floor after the injury. And Coach was telling us how great your off season was. So how frustrating was it for you just to have to sit and you worked really hard with the rehab, but there was only so many things you could do, and it had to have been frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of frustrating, you know, sitting every day and watching my guys practice, you know, and play and not be able to be on the court with them. It kind of hurt me, you know, mentally, but I got over it. You know, I'm back now with them. So. Fortunately,
it wasn't as serious of a knee injury as it could have been. But is that the first time you ever really had an injury like that?
No, actually, it was my second time. My freshman year in high school, I tore my patellar tendon, my left knee, the same knee actually, and I was on crutches for about 2-3 months. So. This injury wasn't as bad as that one.
After having it the first time, then having something happen this time, is there ever thoughts in the back of your mind when you're out there of, man, I don't want to do something that's going to make it, get hurt again?
Right. I mean, like it kind of gets to me, like when somebody run and hit me in my knee. The first thing I think, I don't want to have another injury so I can be out again. But I try not to think about it as much, so I can just try to get through it.
Your first game back after sitting out with the injury was against Tennessee, and you played a big role in a huge upset for the 49ers. What was it like playing in that atmosphere?
Oh, it was a great feeling, not only just playing against Tennessee, just being in Bobcats Arena, and everybody was pumped. We was going in playing, we was going to win the game, and we did.
You have developed a jump shot since I saw you as a freshman. I mean, you told me one time that you only had to shoot jumpers maybe 2 times a game at West Rowan because you were so strong inside. You look like you feel really confident from 18 feet out.
That comes from just putting in extra work, before and after practice, through the preseason with the coaches or the managers, just putting up like 100 shots maybe.
At West Rowan, I know you guys have a great athletic tradition, not only in basketball, but in football. I think your alma mater won the state championship again this year. The quarterback there is a Sherrill. He's a cousin of yours, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you got a younger brother who's a point guard for the basketball team.
Sure.
And what's he going to do in his future?
He's going to play basketball. I'm not sure where though, but right now he's hurt. He hurt his hip, so he's out for a couple weeks. But he's going to get back in the gym and get work even better.
Do you keep up with your old high school, and do you sort of brag to the other guys that, hey, my school's better than yours, that kind of stuff?
I do a little bit. I brag about Dario Green about how many championships we won, basketball and football.
As you played this year and got back on the floor, KJ, it seemed like you're a high energy guy to begin with. When you get out there, is it hard to kind of slow yourself down a little bit? I know you want to be out there and doing everything, but sometimes when the game speeds up so much, is it hard to kind of slow yourself down?
I mean, like my adrenaline, it be running because I want to come in, help my guys out so we can get the win. But I just listen to coach. He talked to me, he eased my mind so I can just come out and play my game.
From last year to this year, where do you feel like you've improved the most and your comfort level has improved the most?
Like you said, my jump shots, it improved a lot, and I think I've become better on defense. I'm stronger. I can move well. My leg, whatever. So I think I'm doing pretty good.
You've been working your free throw shooting too, and this team as a whole, man, there's not a bad free throw shooter. Anwan has had some difficulty at times, but it seems like when he's at the line to make a big shot, he makes that big shot. Now you guys got to feel really good as a team to know that late in the game you've made so many big free throws. No matter who it is, they've stepped the line and they've really come through.
Right. In practice, that goes from in practice, putting up free throw shots before and after practice, so when that time comes that we can knock them down.
You're going to be seeing a lot of playing time, no question, now that Phil's out for the rest of the year. Are you ready for that? Looking forward to that?
Yes, sir. I'm getting ready each and every day. Like Coach said, main thing is I'm trying to get my endurance up, and I've been out for a while, so that's probably the biggest thing.
I think I remember correctly, as a freshman last year, you had foul trouble occasionally. Mm-hmm. Are you trying to really concentrate on not making fouls? I know that's an easy thing, easier said than done.
I'm trying not to concentrate on so it take me out of my game. I'm just come in, play defense the right way, hands up, don't try to block for everything. So let the ball come to me.
Getting to play here locally, your family gets to come watch you play quite a bit. You mentioned the Tennessee game being one of the highlights, but we've also seen how families like yours and others have traveled so well this year, going down to Georgia Tech, and you guys as players have to feel pretty great about being in that environment, beating Georgia Tech in double overtime, and knowing that we had so many folks there. Certainly more. It was a lot louder for you guys than it was for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think Niner Nation for that. Niner Nation, my family, just coming out and support.
Talk a little bit about your friend Javaris Barnett. He's a guy who, for 2 years, was sort of an afterthought, didn't play much. Did you notice anything about him and how he was able to maintain his concentration, his drive, knowing that he would have a chance to prove himself at one point?
Like Coach said, that comes from the off season, putting in extra work in the gym. He knew his time was going to come, and he's shining. He's
another guy whose family is at most games, if not all games. I met them at Boone, I think, when he was a freshman. They came up to watch the Charlotte Appalachian game, and they said, we'll be at every game. That parental support has to mean a lot to you guys.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I love for my family, my friends to come watch me play. Not only me, I know everybody else does.
How about the former Niner players that have come back quite a bit recently? Started last couple of years. We saw even more last season, and now Coach Majors tried to make an effort to bring more of the alums back and to be around the program. We see DeMond there an awful lot, but what is it like getting the encouragement and also getting some tips from the former guys as well?
It's a big help. They come to our practices. They tell us what what to do, not to do, because they know they've been through it. So it's a good help.
How about the rest of the season? Still a lot of basketball left. You got 14 league games left, and as you look at how this league is playing out, I mean, Temple's very good. There's probably 3-4 really good teams, but then there's a lot of teams kind of lumped up in the middle. You guys got to feel pretty confident the way you're playing that you can be one of those teams in the upper echelon of this league.
Right. We try not to look at the records. Just play each game. The way we want to play. We watch scout. Watch films and just buy on what Coach saying so we can pull out the win.
You say you try not to pay attention to the record. I don't know if you're aware of it or not. Fordham's lost 4 straight coming in. Do you really just try to shut that out of your mind? We don't care what their record is. We just got to go out and play hard.
Yes, sir. I mean, we try not, like I said, we try not to really look into it. We know Fordham's a good team. They got a couple of good players on the team. We just try to watch film, watch film and go recruit the scout and stuff. So that's what we do.
I don't know if you said you really enjoyed the chance to play at Bobcat Arena. Don't know if you've had a chance to see them or not, but you remind me a little bit of Tyrus Thomas, who's one of the
that's the first time I heard
Bobcat
that.
Star. He's got a nice, sweet jumper. He looks like he developed it recently. He can also jump out of the gym. Do you try to pattern yourself after any player in the NBA or any other college player?
Growing up a lot, everybody told me that I look like KG, so I try to base my game off him. He's the post, great in post, and I just try to work my moves off him, based off him.
Pretty good guy to idolize.
Not bad. Hey, KJ, thanks so much for taking the time and stopping by. I know school started again. I guess the fun time is over, huh?
Right. I mean, just back to the basics, back to the books. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, have a great semester. Good luck during the conference season. And again, thanks for stopping by.
All right, thank you. No problem.
KJ Sherrill, the 49ers, has been our guest here tonight. The interview segment brought to us by Ortho Carolina. Ortho Carolina, you improved. More of the Alan Majors Show. We're back with the coach in a moment. Our phone number is 704-570-9610. And from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center, this is the Alan Majors Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show. Final segment here from Wild Wing Cafe from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center with Charlie Frederick. I'm Matt Swarad alongside Niners head coach Alan Major. Our phone number is 704-570-9610. 704-570-9610. A reminder, the game coming up this weekend is on Saturday at 7 o'clock at Halton Arena. Tickets available 704-687-4949. It has been a while since we've been home, and it's going to be good to get back home. We got this game. And before our next show, we've got a game next Wednesday at home against UMass. So, Coach, it seemed like we're on the road forever, but now we get home for a couple. And this Fordham Rams team coming in, we're going to take on a team that has a head coach that we know a lot about recent years. was the head coach at Hofstra. Did a nice job there.
Yeah.
And now he's starting to turn the program around a little bit at Fordham.
Yeah, no, they got some talented guys. I mean, they really drive the basketball well. I mean, they got the Gaston kid's talented, and the kid Butler's talented. The kid Frazier can really shoot it. They have a couple other guys that can really kind of find their way in the game if you let them. So, for us, I mean, once you get in the league play, we all know it. You can throw a lot of previous stuff out the window. I mean, these guys have had some good wins. Had a big win over St. John's earlier in the year. So, our number one thing is just going to be able to we want to come back out, especially being at home, and compete extremely hard, for the entire 40 minutes, and continue to build that consistency of going hard from tip to buzzer.
One of the things you have been frustrated about, and we've talked after games recently, has been the turnovers, and it's something you guys have been working on. But where do you feel like after the last couple of days of practice, the progress you're making going towards Fordham and trying to correct a few of the things that I know you were trying to correct?
Yeah, I think it's just slowing down a lot of it. You go back on film, and I think each guy individually looked at the ones who had committed them. Basically said, hey, here's an opportunity, and whatever the case may be, a lot of it's just slowing down, and when you're on the road, things get heightened. If you end up behind in a game, things get heightened. A lot of times, guys will want to go make a play, and the nature of them wanting to go make a play isn't selfish at all. They just want to try to make something happen to help the team. Sometimes it's the context of when you do it, and the situation, and the time and score, and just slowing down, and sometimes it's not that decision. It's if you slow down, and the best decision may be one or two more passes away. So that's the big thing. Just trying to continue to play with great purpose on every possession.
There's some guys in this league that you feel like they've been here forever, and Chris Gaston of Fordham is one of those guys for me. Averages a double-double, and he's a pretty big load down low.
Yeah, he is. He's talented. He's slithery. Up and under you, try to spin move you. I mean, he's got a lot of different ways to get the ball to the rim. So, they're very much a challenge for us. And again, we don't ever want to put anybody on an island individually in terms of trying to stop a guy. You guard great players as a team, and so that's what we'll have to do with him as well.
Do you think Coach Pecora now has kind of settled into his rotation? He was playing a lot of guys small minutes earlier, but it seems like now 7-8 guys getting the bulk of their minutes.
Looking at their stat sheet, that's about where they are. 7 guys he really leaned on, and he kind of has an 8th right there. So, but the majority of their scoring is coming from that starting club, and I'm sure he's had his challenges first year just like we have, but he's got some talented guys, and you watch them on film, they keep playing. They've had some games where they've gotten down, but they got a couple guys that, if you let them get rolling, I mean, they can hurt you.
It's good to have Deuce Briscoe back scoring the way. I know you don't want him to be a score-first point guard.
Yeah.
But in your situation, it helps him helps you guys to have him score. And he had 20 against St. Bonnie. He'd been struggling a little bit before that.
Yeah. No, he was. We had told him before the game, like, hey, today's the day that you're back. You kind of get back to being who you are, and scoring's part of who he is. I think, and we don't ever want to take that away from him, because you want kids feeling like they can, do what they do best at any given time. So. What he's continuing to improve on is when he does get to the paint in crowds, that's when you kick it. If you have a clean pull-up and you can see the rim, that's one of those, like, everybody in the gym knows you should shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
So his scoring aggressiveness and his mindset, you definitely don't want to take that away, because that's one of the best things he does.
Do you think that had been weighing on him a little bit, not to criticize you or any of the coaching staff, because you needed a guy to be a playmaker in addition to score some? But do you think maybe he was thinking a little too much? Should I shoot now, or should I dish it instead of just playing?
That happens. And the flip side of that, ironically, is, Dario had kind of gone through that in his own way, early on. He had some games where, he hadn't shot it well and had, maybe played particularly well, had defended pretty well. But early on, people thought, is he in a slump, or what's going on? And, he's bounced back and has played better. So it's tough to be from 30 or 32 games from beginning to end, that unbelievably consistent guy. I mean, you know, kids are going to hit skids from time to time. So, you know, Dario had his little stretch and Deuce had his little stretch, but you know, those guys have been, you know, by and large pretty reliable from game to game. So, and they're logging a lot of minutes too.
Coach, got about 90 seconds of show left. Give us a quick synopsis of what you feel like you need to do to be successful on Saturday.
Play with great energy, number one. Play with just unbelievable energy. You know, any guy that checks in, you know, we always talk about bringing the highest level of play that you can bring, you know, at your position, you know, while you're in there. So I'd say number one, just playing with just phenomenal energy. Number two, taking care of the basketball, and because I think we're about 47% from the field in league play at this point. So we've proven that when we do have good ball security, that we're getting pretty good shots. So now it's let's steal back, you know, 6 or 7 of these possessions and cut our turnovers down and give ourselves a chance to, you know, to score more, because that's what you're doing. So, and then the third thing is just team defense, you know, in terms of keeping people in front of us and, you know, making people score over us and not giving up anything, you know, either wide open three-wise or at the rim.
So it's Saturday at 7 o'clock. Fordham will be the opponent. 704-687-4949, the ticket number. And then next Wednesday, back home against UMass at 7:30. A quick note on that. That is the Samaritan Feet game. Coach will be coaching that game barefoot. And if
Stay home, folks.
Out, yeah,
Stay home.
Out,
Don't come see that.
Bring some new shoes for kids. We really appreciate that. It's a great cause. And that's going to be next Wednesday against UMass. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Allen Major Show. This segment brought to us by Masson, the home of college basketball. For Charlie Frederick, I'm Matt Sporad, alongside the coach, Allen Major, here from the 49erfanatics.com broadcast center. Also want to thank Travis Hancock and Daryl McCray from WFNZ. Good night, everybody.